Hi, my name is Matt Bullock. I'm one of the technical marketing engineers working on the new ISR 4451X, and in this video I'm going to give you a quick run through of how you actually go about ordering and configuring a 4451X system. Now, to start with, let me run through really quickly some of the things that you can order on a 4451X. Here's an exploded view, inside view of a 4451X system. Of course, one of the great things about the 4451X is we have a separate control plane and control and services plane. This creates a little bit of confusion if you're coming from a classic ISR world where we just have a single CPU. The confusion really stems from the fact that we do have two banks of DRAM, of memory in the system. Now, currently today, the data plane memory is non-upgradable. It is a DIMM. It is a single DIMM, the one you see there on the left next to the data plane. However, it's not currently upgradable. It may be upgradable in the future, but currently today, all of our features work perfectly fine with the default data plane memory that we have in place. The control and services plane memory, however, is upgradable, and it's going to need to be upgraded depending on what you have the system configured to do, whether it's built-in services or some configurations that just take additional control plane memory, like really high-scale routing protocols, or embedded services like ISR WAS embedded into the 4451X itself. Now, those two banks of DIMMs on the right there are going to be available for memory upgrades. So those would be where you would put additional memory. And for the time being, at least the bank on the left there, that single DIMM on the left for the data plane, you can pretty much just leave alone for now. Other things that you can order and upgrade on a 4451X include the new generation of DSPs, the PVDM4s. These are a smaller, squarer form factor than the PVDM3s on the ISR G2s. The reason they're a different form factor is because they're now compatible with the new network interface module cards inside of the system, so they fit either on the card if you're doing physical interface transcoding, or on the system itself if you're doing things like conferencing or Cube, and that's why we only have a single slot on the motherboard. So this is where the PVDM4 would fit on the motherboard. The same PVDM4 module, I'll show you how to order in just a minute, would also fit on, for example, a T1E1 voice trunk card. Other things you can upgrade and order in the system, right next to that daughter card, is the PoE daughter card. This is where you would actually include the power supply for the front panel gigabit Ethernet power over Ethernet ports, and these are for powering an external LTE modem. We made this an optional component, didn't quite think it was fair to include this cost on every system if you're not using that external Cisco 812 LTE device. But for those of you that are using it, this works with any power supply. You don't need a PoE power supply. You just put this on the system, and you get PoE Plus on those two ports. It's gig 000 and 001, the two on the left, just in case you're curious. Other things we have there, of course, the front panel GIGI interfaces. There's not really anything to configure there, nothing you can really order. Of course, you can order SFPs in those. I'm not going to cover how to order those. Basically, any Cisco SFP will work there, except for the RJ45 SFPs. Doesn't make sense for us to support those since we already have RJ45 interfaces already on the front panel of the router. And in terms of modules that you can order, of course, you get network interface modules. You can support up to 3 of those in the 4451X system, including the new NIM SSD module for carrying dual SSD drives for things like ISR WAS embedded services. And that NIM SSD can go in any of these 3 slots. It's not restricted to the 3rd slot you see here on the right. It can go pretty much anywhere. In addition to that, we have a newer module type called the Enhanced Service Modules, or SM-Xs. Look and feel and breathe exactly like the SMs before it, so that's basically where these go. So that covers the software that you can actually order on a the hardware that you can order on a 4451X. In terms of the software you can order on a 4451X, things look very familiar to an ISR G2 world. We still start out with IP base. One thing that you will notice when you're putting together a configuration, when you're actually configuring a 4451X, is that there is now a charge for IP base. That's really something that we did to be more consistent across all of our routing products. Some of our platforms charge for IP base, some of them included them by default on the system itself, sort of bundled into the price. On the 4451X, we basically set the price for the system and then subtracted IP base, so you're paying the same price that you would have before. It's just now it's a separate line item that you have to add on to every configuration. So keep that in mind. IP base is going to be a required piece of software you have to add on. On top of IP base, you get your three major, we call these technology package licenses, that being security, application experience, and unified collaboration. Same technology packages on an ISR G2. And again, all of this is in just a single universal iOS image here. So all of the software is in the same image. You simply turn on this capability with a software-based license. Essentially, they're right-to-use licenses. So you turn them on, you get a 60-day evaluation period, and then after 60 days, the license automatically converts to a right-to-use license, which basically says everything keeps working perfectly fine, and we're basically trusting that you're actually going to buy the license. It's not actually going to stop working for you. We just really want you to go ahead and pay for it at that point. So again, three major technology package licenses with features that pretty much line up where you would expect them. Security features are going to be in security. Things like our VPN technologies, our zone-based firewall are going to be in there. Application experience is really anything really new or really old, I like to say. So some of our advanced features like MPLS, application visibility and control, ISR WAS, our WAN optimization features are going to be in application experience. And then unified collaboration, exactly what you would think there. Anything that's voice, video related would fit into that bucket. I have a link at the end of the presentation here on a link to our feature navigator where you can actually look up specific features and which technology package they're in. Now, above those licenses, we actually have a few what are called individual feature licenses that actually add on to those individual technology packages. For the most part, these have a prerequisite of the underlying technology package. So we have, for example, high security. This is there only for U.S. government export restrictions. So the story with this is if you have a security license in a 4451X system, the system is going to be limited to a total of 160 megabits per second of encrypted throughput and 225 simultaneous encrypted tunnels. That's purely a U.S. government export restrictions. The high security license basically removes those restrictions and gives you the full capacity of the system. So there's no restrictions on throughput and there's no restrictions on tunnel count. A couple of other feature licenses that we have are going to be Cube and Communications Manager Express and SRST. These are going to be counted licenses, so they do require that you have your unified collaboration technology package first in the system, and then you just basically add on and configure the number of sessions that you need for those features. The final license we have here is new to the ISR world, and that's the performance license. This has no prerequisites. It basically takes a system from a base level 1 gigabit per second performance up to a full capacity 2 gigabits per second performance. It works across the board. It's going to improve your performance regardless of what your configuration is, because we're actually turning on basically the other half of the actual data plane CPU cores. So that's basically the hardware and software that you can actually order and configure on a 4451. Let's take a look at the actual SKUs, or the actual part numbers that you would order. The first of these is really the base platform, the 4451X-K9. This is the base platform. By default, it's going to come with your base memory, your base flash, basically everything that you need in the system. Your DRAM and your flash can be upgraded. Keep in mind that we do have a requirement that your flash memory, your boot flash, is actually twice the size of your DRAM. That's for a lot of reasons. The main one of those is the ability to store log files, any information that the system might need, to troubleshoot problems in the future. It's not going to stop the system from working if you don't have 2 times your DRAM in flash, but it's strongly recommended for troubleshooting support in the future, and for storing multiple images of the operating system files. So that's generally going to be a requirement to all 4451X systems. Now, modules you can add onto the system. I mentioned you can add a NIM SSD. This is the actual carrier card that contains those disks. Then you then need to go in and order an additional single or dual SSD drives that actually fit into that carrier card. Currently, we only have one option available in the 200 gig size. You need 2 of these for ISR WAS, for example, for the highest capacity ISR WAS. But the drive carrier itself can accept 1 or 2. We do have future options for larger and smaller versions of this, depending on what your actual services need inside of the 4451X system. And we also have a future plans for a NIM HD version, for a hard drive version, for lower cost and lower reliability than the initial solid state drives in the system. Power supplies in the system, of course, you get one AC power supply by default in the base system. You can upgrade this to a second redundant power supply if you're going to add a second power supply into an existing system that you're ordering. This is the part number that you would order. The AC/2 means that it's going to be your second power supply. The power supplies are actually identical, but for the list price and for cost and budgeting and everything, it's a separate part number here. The second SKU that we have is actually the PoE power supply. This is actually the power supply that also includes the PoE conversion module. So what you actually get on a 4451X that's different than an ISR G2. When you order a PoE power supply, what you actually receive is a higher capacity 1000 watt power supply, and you also receive a 500 watt PoE conversion module. This is actually a module that fits into the back of the system right next to the power supply and provides all of the PoE conversion inside of the system. You can have up to 2 of these power supply combinations in the system, so that would be 2 1000 watt power supplies and 2 500 watt PoE conversion modules. So it provides you another level of redundancy there. You get power supply redundancy, and you also have redundancy in the actual 48 volt PoE conversion that goes on inside of the system. So that's the option that you have there. Of course, the base system, the non-PoE power supply, just comes with a single 500 watt power supply and no PoE conversion module. The next thing you can order is the GigE PoE. This is that power over Ethernet board that actually fits inside of the system itself and gives you power over Ethernet just to those front panel gigabit Ethernet interfaces. And again, there's no requirement for any power supply. This works with either the standard power supply or the PoE power supply itself. In terms of software, we actually have the actual SKUs for the software licenses. When you're configuring a 4451X system, you will get the option to configure any of these software licenses as part of it. If you're looking for the specific part number, the specific SKU that you'll be guided to, these are actually those SKUs there. So these are the licenses for application experience, for unified communication, for security, for performance, and high performance security. Of course, HSEC actually does require SEC as a prerequisite, but again, just like IP base, we sort of set the price for HSEC first and then broke that down between SEC and HSEC. So the net result is the same price. It's just that it's split up into two buckets there. In terms of bundles, so just like the ISR G2s, we're going to have a whole series of bundles to make ordering a little bit easier, and in many cases, in most cases actually, it's going to make your life a little bit less expensive when you order a 4451X bundle. The first of these is going to be our security bundle, just like on an ISR G2. It's going to include a base 4451X system with default memory and default DRAM, along with your SEC license, which can be upgraded to HSEC when you order the bundle. The 4451X-V or voice bundle is going to include basically your base system with a UC license and an entry-level PVDM4 with 64 channels of capacity. Of course, that can be upgraded to a higher capacity PVDM4 at the same time. We also have the VSEC bundle, same thing as on the ISR G2. It's going to include both a base platform, SEC, UC licenses, and that PVDM4 64. Of course, any of these can be upgraded when you configure the bundle. Then finally, we have the application experience bundle, which is also available on the ISR G2. It's a little bit different on the 4451X. It does still include a base of default flash, default DRAM, application experience license, and security license. That's pretty much the same as an ISR G2. However, it also includes a license for up to 2,500 connections of WAS, WAN optimization. Now, it's up to you once you decide on this bundle itself where you want to run that WAS. So you can either configure this bundle to include additional DRAM, additional flash, and SSD drives. You can run what we call ISR WAS inside of the 4451X with no modules, no footprint, really running in that services plane inside of the 4451X. Or you can configure this bundle with a UCSE series, with a UCSE 140-X or -S, excuse me, the entry-level UCSE blade inside of a 4451X, and you can run up to 2,500 sessions with this license on that UCSE blade. You have an option of how you actually want to run that WAS capability with the application experience bundle. Of course, UCSE running VWAS in this case can actually go much higher than 2,500 sessions. They can currently go up to 6,000 sessions per module, but this bundle itself is just going to give you a license for that first 2,500 sessions. You'd have to buy an additional license to go up and above that. And then in terms of modules, this is just sort of a look at some of the initial modules that we have available at FCS. Really anything that you see an underscore here is going to be a wildcard. That means that there's lots of different options for this module, but there's going to be different options in terms of the number of ports, the number of DSP channels, that sort of thing. Starting off, the first module we have here is really our clear channel and voice T1E1 module. Of course, this module can be configured with a PVDM module, PVDM DSP module directly on the NIM itself. And you can buy this module in either 1, 2, 4, or 8 port options. The idea being if you're doing clear channel T1 aggregation for data in this case, you'd probably be buying a higher capacity. If you're doing a low capacity voice trunk, you'd probably buy a 1 or 2 port. So you've got flexibility there in terms of the size of the module itself. And the great thing about the new NIM form factor is it lets us build modules with up to 8 ports and DSPs directly on the modules itself. So it gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of module real estate. The second module we have looks very similar to that, the MFT module, and that's the channelized T1E1 module. Of course, channelized is only going to support data. And in this option, we have 1, 2, and 8 port options here as well. The new SM-X module that we have here, this is of course compatible with the ISR G2 and the 4451X. The SM-X 1T3E3 gives you a single port of T3 E3 capability. Again, voice only, or excuse me, data only, no voice support for this module. And then finally, the PVDM modules here that fit either on the base system itself or on the NIM MFT modules. And these, of course, available in 32, 64, 128, 192, and 256 capacities for the system. So a whole range depending on what your needs are for voice and DSP scalability. The last two modules we have here, nothing new. These are the same UCSE modules that we have on the ISR G2s. I just include them here for completeness. You can have either the S modules, the UCSE-140 or 160S, which is a single wide module, or we can support the UCSE 160D or 160S, which is a 6-core, 6 CPU core double wide module. Of course, the difference between a single wide and double wide is you get more CPU horsepower, more memory, more drive capacity on the double wide than you do on the single wide. But of course, everything that you know about the UCSE series holds true for the 4451X as well, including the footnote here that you have to configure the drives. The UCSE series don't include drives by default simply because you have so many options. You have either options of 2 drives or of 3 drives. They can be SSD, SATA, or SCSI support within the system itself. So you have a lot of different flexibility there. Last thing I'll leave you with is some links for more information. Of course, the 4451X project page, just cisco.com/go/4400. A great place to go just for basic general 4451X information. The Software Advisor homepage, really the first place to go to if you're looking for which technology package license or which feature license supports a given mixture of features, or where can I find support for this specific feature on this platform, which software release, which technology package, which license. Software Advisor is a great place to go for that. And then finally, Cisco Commerce Workspace, a relatively new tool. If you haven't used it yet, go take a look at that. It's basically a replacement for the configurator. Gives you a lot of great information in terms of configuring systems. You can run through full configurations, save them, share them with people, which makes it really, really handy. So thanks a lot, folks. Appreciate the time, and look forward to some more videos in the 4451X and the general ISR and routing series.